What's wrong? You need to shut it off?
No, something bigger.
Something bigger.
What is going on?
The bathroom's on surface. Who knows for how long it's been this way. Okay.
This is a men's bathroom.
We're gonna go ahead and get started. A little weird.
Turn your mic off.
Why did I think it was gonna be automatic? Welcome to the July 23rd, 2024 Oshtemo Township Board meeting. The chair and the treasurer will be back in a moment. They're dealing with an urgent situation. There is no remote location identification. Please join us if you wish in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just because I'm doing this, it lets you off? If you can afford it.
Oh.
Thank you. Is there a trustee who wishes to read the core value?
I'll do that. Core value integrity. Decisions are made logically through the collection of evidence, facts, and public input.
Thank you so much. At this time, I would like to open up public comment for non-agenda items. If you wish to speak to the board, please go up to the podium.
Can you hear me? There we go. I'm Angelique Camfield. I reside at 821 Berkshire Drive in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Some of you may have heard my name. I am running for a Ninth Circuit Court judge. So one of the reasons that I like to get out into the community and introduce myself to everyone is you oftentimes don't know who is on the nonpartisan part of your ballot, and I like people to be informed about who is on the ballot that they may be electing. In this particular new judgeship, it will be an 8-year term. It also will be, according to our Chief Judge Gary Jagir, a almost 100% criminal caseload on the felony docket, meaning that that person who handles this caseload will need to have the knowledge and experience of criminal law to be able to make the decisions that need to be made procedurally and on evidence in order to ensure that there are fair and partial trials held for both the prosecution and the defense, and that those cases are moving along expediently. I am the only person of the three running for that seat. Ms. Willis and Ms. Morse do not have the experience level that I do. I'm the only one with the criminal law experience of 27 years. So I began as a prosecutor, and over the course of my career, I earned 15 years total prosecuting for 3 different counties, including Kalamazoo County, and I've received that award from the Prosecuting Attorneys Association of Michigan. Additionally, I had my own office from 2007 through 2014, where I worked as a public defender on the Kalamazoo County contract. We all had to be approved by the judges with our experience level in order to be able to handle those cases. I have done literally thousands of hearings and hundreds of trials, both bench and jury trials, in criminal law as a public prosecutor as well as a defender. I currently still do defense work for some of my clients in the family law firm that I run. So I am a manager, I'm not the owner, I just want that clarified. But I do criminal work such as personal protection orders, which are civil order, but usually arise out of a domestic violence incident, as well as some other criminal law. I feel that I'm the most qualified for this position to make those decisions that will need to be made in the criminal cases. It's my understanding that this docket is somewhat behind, which is why Chief Judge Gary Jagir asked the legislators to create this new seat. It was something that Ms. Morse and Senator McCann did work on. It was passed not only for our county, but also I believe Allegan County has a new judgeship pending as well. With respect to that, I just would ask that you look at my website. It's votecamfield.com. On there, you can also follow my Facebook page, which will tell you who I am endorsed by, as well as the statements that they made for my endorsement. A lot of them I have worked with as public law enforcement officers or other judges before whom I have appeared. I have a client on there, several clients as well, who will tell you how I handle cases, giving everyone a voice, which I would intend to do in my courtroom. And additionally, I have a Child Advocacy Center director who will tell you that I won the Sexual Assault Services Prosecution Award. It was called the Memorial Brand Service Award in 2020 for my prosecution of sexual assault cases and working with the multidisciplinary team of experts and others in order to keep everyone informed of how that prosecution was proceeding. So I have some brochures or door hangers I brought with me that will give you some of that information as well. And I will just end with two of my goals during this 8-year term would be to initiate a domestic violence treatment court, and additionally to start a county-wide mental health coalition so that we can bring more mental health services into our county, not only for victims of crime and trauma, but also for veterans and even offenders who may be going into treatment courts. I don't think anybody should be waiting for trauma therapy in our county, and so my goal is to increase those services. I thank you for your time and attention this evening. If I may approach and just pass these down to the board members, I would be appreciative. Thank you.
Is that campaign material? It is. I'm not sure it's appropriate for the dais, but you can leave it up there. Certainly. Thank you. I mean, just to be clear, I wouldn't pass out my campaign literature on the dais either. So, I mean, that's you know.
Oh, no. I totally understand. Okay. I've attended a multitude of township and county and city board meetings, and I generally do provide that information to the members just so that they're familiar with me.
Yeah, and I encourage the board to pick that up and read it, but.
Whichever manner you prefer, I'm okay with.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Clerk Farmer, for getting us rolling. I appreciate that. We are, I'm guessing, on public official updates. Is that correct? Yes. Welcome. Thank you all for being here and having some patience. We're having some building issues that we're going to need to get resolved. But are there any other members of the public here wishing to make comment to the board that are from your capacity in the community? Okay. Seeing none, we will move forward to consent agenda, item number 7. Before you in your packets this evening, we have 2 items, which is the meeting minutes from July 9th, as well as a draft MOU for the collaboration with Oshtemo Friends of the Parks and Kalamazoo Public Library. Do we have any members of this board wishing to remove an item from the consent agenda and discuss later in the meeting?
I don't want to remove anything. I would comment that the Friends of the Park met and endorsed the memorandum, and I believe the attorney also reviewed it, just for the record for people. If there's nothing else, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by trustee Sikora and a second by trustee Ford. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is agenda item number 8, which I'm pretty excited about, and we've talked about this at previous board meetings, but we've done some recognitions in other ways, but this is our employee spotlight of Carrie Tyler, the clerk's assistant.
All right, thanks, Sherry. This is a new program, as Sherry mentioned. There's a lot of great work being done here in the township that the board isn't in the day-to-day operations of. So we wanted to take some time out of a board meeting every month to spotlight one of the employees that we have working here. For the first of these, we would love to talk about Carrie Tyler. Carrie Tyler is the clerk's assistant. She was hired in May 2023, and in her short, just over a year here, she has really proven to be an extremely valuable member of this staff. Carrie came into a brand new position at this township that we hired for last year, and she really has jumped in and helped us form this position into something that is extremely helpful for all departments here at the township. I don't think there's any department that Carrie doesn't touch. My department personally, she's helped me with a lot of tasks, and we're very thankful for her. In your packet, I have included the employee spotlight information for you. There's some information about Carrie, some summary of her duties. Again, she is the first clerk's assistant here in the township. And then one thing I did want to point out is that in her short term with the township, she has been nominated to receive 3 peer recognition certificates. So as a reminder, we do peer recognition certificates at every staff meeting once a month, where anybody can nominate another employee to highlight some work that they did that they wanted to talk about at the staff meeting. And Carrie has received 3 since she's been here, so congratulations to her. We're very excited for the future here with Carrie. I think that she's going to continue to help develop this position into something that is needed here in the township with records retention and election work. So we wanted to take a moment to celebrate Carrie, and we're very thankful for her as an employee. And as I had said, we'll be doing one of these a month. So again, thank you to Carrie. I think I speak for everyone when I say that. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did she have a conflict that arose this evening?
Yes, she lives in Allegan.
Well, just saying. Well, we do have a little acknowledgement for Carrie in order to celebrate her work for the township. So Dusty, I assume you will.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Absolutely.
You'll take the privilege of doing that?
I will.
All right, outstanding. Next, we have agenda item number 9, a board update, and we have our own Fire Chief Greg McComb here. It's halfway through the year. I thought it was a good time for the chief to come forward and sort of give some highlights and spotlights about what's going on in the fire department.
Hello, good evening. So I just took some notes down to kind of talk about where we're at this year, a little bit about where we were last year, what has happened. This year we've hired 4 new full-time firefighters. We had 3 approval from the board, but we also created a new position within the fire marshal's office. We had a promotion, internal promotion to that, so we hired 4 new firefighters. We're focused on the need for command staff at Station 2. So that's something that we'll be working with the union and HR to find out the most appropriate direction to take this to try to get some command staff in charge of personnel at that station. We did apply for a firehouse subs grant for the side-by-side that we tried to get in last year's budget. We were denied. We did get a grant from them when they first opened their firehouse subs location, so I think we're probably got to wait a few more years before we can get another grant from them, but we did give that a shot. Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity Firefighter Turnout Program. This is an initiative that was driven by the IAFF to provide a spare set of turnout gear to every full-time firefighter in Michigan. I don't know if it goes any further than Michigan, but so that is something that we're waiting. We're allowed to claim up to $3,500 for each set of fire gear for each one of our 22 full-time firefighters. We had to send a letter to the state showing that our investment of $385 per firefighter, because our gear costs $3,885, that our $385 per firefighter will be covered. And we're just waiting word back from the state on that so we can get extra gear ordered for every full-time firefighter. So huge for cancer awareness, and you know, they come out of a fire and their gear's nasty and stinking. It goes in the wash, and they've got a second set ready to go. So let's see, we have performed an internal SWOT analysis, and as part of our continuing part of our strategic planning initiative, our next step is to exercise our internal improvement initiative, correcting on the internal weaknesses that we discovered. So we heard back from the crews. This is what we'd like to see improvement on, and we're working on those improvements now to correct those things. Erin is a car seat installation specialist. She has installed, she's had 32 car seat installation appointments, some of them for multiple car seats. So this year she's been very busy. Captain Scott Fuller, who is our new community risk reduction specialist in the Fire Marshal's Division, is working on our Fire Prevention Week theme of smoke detectors save lives. Our technical rescue team, we've responded to Portage on 2 occasions, the tornado response and the trench collapse. The trench collapse being one of the more technical trench rescues that we've seen in the country, amazingly. We discussed this event live with a nationally renowned trench instructor. One of our Deputy Chief, Eric Burkhart, called this guy up and said, "This is what we've got. We've never trained for anything like this." And he said, "I don't think I could have put on a training that people wouldn't have thought this was a joke. We dug another trench to meet up with the original trench to get the person out." And that was just about unheard of, but the only thing we could do, and it actually worked.
If you
So-
start telling us that you're gonna fight fire with fire, I'm gonna be a little concerned.
Forest firefighters do that. Call volumes, we are down in calls this year to date by 43 calls. Although our calls this year have been much more serious. The tech rescue calls I just spoke of, we have had 3 fatal fires this year. Let's see, I have to hand it to the mental resiliency of our personnel for experiencing things that most people will never see in their lifetime. Let's see, we've had 1,891 calls year to date. 63 of those have been fires. 64% of our calls are EMS in nature. We've had 25 cardiac arrests, 106 motor vehicle accidents. 33% of our calls are overlapping. So when we're on a call, a third of the time we end up with another call that we have to split up, or, you know, if it's a medical, we'll send the other station, but if we're both on a call, we figure out how we're gonna manage that. June 15th, we had 7 overlapping incidents at one time. So it was a busy day, and then we go down from there. So let's see. Most busy places that we go: Evergreen North Apartments, Hope Woods, Story Point, Meadow Lodge, followed by Park Village Pines, Super 8, Fresenius Medical Care. Big box stores, Walmart we go to quite a bit, Lowe's, followed by Myers and Menards, Costco. So we have been very busy out there, and I'm really proud of our department and our personnel. Do I have any questions from anyone on the board?
Sorry, I don't have a question. Will you tell that statistic about successful cardiac arrests? I'm not having one, although I sound like a little bit.
Yeah, so Oshtemo is, and I don't like to say this too much publicly because we're tuning our own horn pretty good here, but Oshtemo has Kalamazoo County has the highest cardiac arrest survival rate in the state of Michigan. They have the highest, so Kalamazoo County has the highest cardiac arrest survival rate in the state. Oshtemo has the highest cardiac arrest survivability rate in Kalamazoo County, which means we are the highest in the state. We are the second highest in the nation. King County, Washington has more cardiac arrest save rates. There's certain metrics they use behind these rates. There has to be a witnessed arrest and things like that. But we're number 2 in the nation.
Is it because you have so many people who are called to the scene when it happens?
The amount of personnel helps. It is more the training that we've had, and we do what we call a pit crew CPR. So if you're not doing anything, you're in line behind the next person, and as soon as they're done on the chest, the next person's on the chest, and the next person lines up behind them. So we have very few interruptions of compressions, and we train really well together. Our ambulance services that have been with us said we are a well-oiled machine, and they love working a cardiac arrest with us because we just know what we're going to do. Before we arrive on scene, our crews are talking to each other about who's going to do what in the management of the patient. We get in there and go right to work, and there's no orders being given because everybody knows what they need to do. So we're good at that.
It's a pretty good feather, I think.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you're allowed to toot your own horn occasionally.
Anything else for anyone?
Thank you. Go ahead, Neil.
No,
Yeah.
I was not aware of that, all those statistics. That's incredible, and I think it should be in the newsletter or something, some publicity, because I wasn't aware of that. We knew you were a great team, and we have a great fire department here, but those are the kind of things I think people need to know, that this is the kind of...
We like to tell you to toot our own horn, but tooting our own horn comes with a lot of flack from local departments also, so we'd prefer to...
That's
I'm going
right.
to tell you this, and we'll keep it here.
That's why I thought
In
maybe
this public meeting.
We'll muscle them,
we could
don't
do that for
worry.
you rather
We'll be buying ice cream for a lot of other departments.
It's all right, they'll be having people push them over to the Oshtemo Township line if they're having a medical emergency.
That's a band of wheelchairs coming down.
All right, thank you all very much.
I just want to inform this board that I'm still learning the operations of the fire department for sure, but Chief has been excellent at informing me, not every single thing that's going on, but if there's a potential fatality or the trench rescue or like big stuff that's going out in the community, he's been a great partner with me, like keeping me informed, so that nobody stays surprised if the phone rings, right? So I appreciate that. Okay, next we are moving on to item number 10, first reading of zoning ordinance amendment number 672. And Attorney Porter, I'm going to ask you to please lead us in the beginning in the introduction of this discussion.
Yeah,
and then I need to go back and check on the portion of the building that's struggling, so
Okay.
I will be back in a moment.
Okay. Your planning director asked that you excuse her tonight. She had a conflict, having just recently come on board. She had a conflict she couldn't get out of, so she'd asked if I would take this. Basically, tonight, under Ordinance 672, you have three areas of amendment to your zoning ordinance. The first one is to try to broaden a little bit distribution and fulfillment centers and allowing them in the IR as well as the I-1. One of the things that planning and legal did was to do some research as to how best to define these uses and separate, say, a distribution and fulfillment center from a regular truck terminal or a warehouse. I believe we've done that. The Planning Commission is recommending unanimously that you adopt this ordinance. I know that some people will be concerned about it because it does seem to expand what we're doing, and especially our IR industrial restricted. But keep in mind that this is a special use and will be viewed very closely by your Planning Commission at any time that an application comes forward. And I'm convinced that Jody has put some meaningful restrictions and limitations on this type of use so that it will be compatible with both our industrial I-1 and our IR. In addition to that, we did have some need to upgrade the use of a mobile home or a recreational vehicle for temporary housing while somebody is building. We had always allowed mobile homes, but the Planning Commission thought that a recreational vehicle appropriately placed and appropriately utilized could be an appropriate source for shelter while building. In addition to that, we had a resident come forward that owns property in the village core, and we had found that property in that area was having a difficult time being marketed because we didn't allow any type of accessory building. And with many uses, especially in the village core area, accessory uses are necessary. And so the Planning Commission recommended adding accessory buildings in the village core as well as the village fringe area. And then there was just a minor tweak to the supplemental setback provisions. Particularly, we had to delete one of the sections which was was referenced in this section, but no longer contained in the ordinance, given that we've had what I call probably like 3 major upgrades to the zoning ordinance over its lifetime, and every time you do that, occasionally something gets dropped, and that was the case. So that's item number 6. So that's my summary of the proposed ordinance amendment before you tonight for first reading. You do have some of the individuals in the audience that were here in support of that, if the board wants to hear from any of them.
Before we do that, let's, if the board has questions about the amendments for Attorney Porter? I do have a couple. I noticed that, excuse me, loading and unloading was allowed until 11 p.m. And I was just curious about that time because some of our other ordinances, like 10 p.m. is the latest, and in residential areas it's 7 p.m. for loud noises. So I just kind of wondered where 11 p.m. came from, if you know that answer.
I think what Jody was thinking is, given the restrictions and limitations on where they can be, how the loading bays are to be faced, she felt there was sufficient control to perhaps expand the hours, given the other setbacks and restrictions as a special use.
So I know that when Walmart went in over here, the residents on 8th Street were concerned, and it was specifically about the loading and unloading. And we made them build a sound wall to mute that noise. But with this change here, would that mean, I mean, everyone then gets to have shipments at 11 p.m. at night?
No, well, no, these are the special use conditions that would only apply to distribution fulfillment centers.
Only, okay,
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that that wasn't gonna carry over to anything else. The
No.
other one was, no, I don't have any other questions. Anyone else?
I have concerns, but not necessarily questions. So if you allow, I'd like to voice those concerns.
Oh, actually, let's do that in deliberation. We'll do that after we hear from the applicant.
I think that's great. Thank you.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Good afternoon. I'm Jamie Clark. I'm the president and owner of Clark Logic. Here with me is Jordan Shaw, our legal representative, Derek Wisner with Calendar Commercial, and Matt Conley, our director of development. So Clark Logic, we're going on a 55-year-old logistics real estate development firm. We started in Three Rivers. I'm a Kalamazoo resident. I'm a Western Michigan University Bronco, and we are moving our headquarters to the former Kalamazoo County Road Commission site here in this next several months, and we're super excited about having a Kalamazoo address. So we formally have proceeded and put a property under contract in Oshtemo Township, which we were going to exit just with the voice of one of the biggest items I've learned from Western was proper preparation prevents poor performance. And if we can't operate as a company and build a logistics and operational center for our tenants, you know, we just can't proceed. So we are the owners of the Court Furniture property on 9th Street, and we're currently developing on the Texas Township side of 9th Street, where if you see the property adjacent to West Michigan International, we just built a 120,000 square foot distribution center at that site. And then we developed a Goodyear Tire Center and shop and built them a complex. So we're excited about the 9th Street corridor being in Oshtemo Township. We are a developer that we don't know who our tenant could be or will be. So we just need the flexibility and the adaptability because these projects are anywhere from $20 to $70 million. It depends on the footprint that we decide to build in phase 1. So it's a very, very important project to our company. So we can share with you some of the successful projects. If you go on I-94, exit 92, we're building currently a 252,000 square footed distribution center adjacent to a Zoetis distribution center that we built in 2021. So I think our pedigree and our responsibility and our product, quality of product will resonate very well in Oshtemo Township, and we would just appreciate your support.
Is there anyone else? Are we in public?
Deliberation now. Oh, I did not call for public comment yet. You're right. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's
I
okay.
forgot
This
it.
is like fix the building, run the meeting. It's all good. So at this time, the board would like to invite public comment regarding item number 10. And if you would like to make comment, please introduce yourself with your address and share with us what you have to say. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Patricia Williams. I own property at 3335 South 9th Street. I am the author of the letter I think you recently received. I'm simply here to ask for your support of this rezoning amendment and to make myself available for any questions you might have that maybe I could answer or address.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Question and answer back and forth between the board and public comment isn't a part of the process, but if you want, it's okay. If you want to lay out some questions perhaps during deliberation, we might have an opportunity to discuss those.
Well, I'm not sure I have any questions, but in observation, as Jody pointed out a couple of weeks ago, most of the other properties in the area have some type of accessory building, and I do not, and I think that's important to have. I have a rather substantial, in terms of scaling to the area of the village core, I have a back lot that is not being used and not been allowed to be used for many, many years. It's approximately 65 feet wide by maybe 85 feet long. I have a building and then a parking lot that I think parks 16 cars, and then this property behind that, which lends itself beautifully to any type of accessory building you might approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public here wishing to speak during public comment regarding item number 10? Seeing none others, and Dusty, do you have the Zoom up? I haven't put it up. Do we have anybody online? I just don't want to miss any raised hands.
Let me check really quick.
It's okay. We didn't start out quite as intended, I don't think.
Yeah, I did have one other item. So one of one of my favorite guys in the world, and my brother-in-law, is an Oshtemo Township firefighter, Brian Tepper. So I didn't expect to see him tonight, so he's in the room. But he does a great job for your township, so I just had to throw that
It's
out
my
there.
first time
Oh, there's a little
seeing
pause.
him. Oh my gosh, where's he been the whole time?
Can you see if we got anybody on Zoom?
Can you fill it for John?
Is there anybody on
Yeah.
that Zoom meeting?
Sarah will get it. Yeah, please, go ahead.
I'll make just a very, very brief comment in support of the amendment. My name is Derek Wisner. I'm a local of Kalamazoo, been in the area for over 25 years now. Been a businessman, developer, investor with Callender Commercial now for quite a bit and specializing in industrial real estate. I was expecting the full packet, so maybe you have that in your packets behind the dais, but I just wanted to speak briefly on the vacancy for industrial product in our area. Nationally, distribution and warehouse facilities are extremely hard to get, especially in corridors along thoroughfares like 94. West Michigan, it's even tighter. The vacancy rates in Kalamazoo County here are in the single digits. I believe, top of mind, it was 3% was the number that I pulled from CoStar for the Planning Commission. When property becomes available, it's leased to very high quality tenants before it's built typically. And Mr. Clark and his team have got a fantastic record of building and delivering extremely high quality products to support some of our major manufacturers here in the community. And this distribution and fulfillment is a key component in that product cycle. So again, I fully support this amendment, and I look forward to assisting with this process in any way I can. Thanks.
Thank you. No bonus points for family in the township, by the way. Okay, and there's no one online. All right, very good.
Carrie did join the meeting, just so you guys know. I didn't know that.
All right, do we have anyone else here in the public wishing to speak on? Oh, please do. Yeah, please join us. Thank you.
Since everybody else is talking, I wanted to make one quick point. So my name's Jordan Shaw. I'm the attorney for Clark Logic. I just wanted to clarify that warehousing is already a permitted use with conditions in IR zone districts. So warehousing is already permitted. This amendment creates a second use, which is distribution facility fulfillment center. And then it adds these, it creates that as a special use, and it adds these requirements to it. So I just wanted to make that clear that warehousing is already permitted. This isn't really creating a whole new category of use. It's creating a second use. It's defining warehousing and distribution fulfillment center more specifically, and then placing requirements on the distribution fulfillment center. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Do we have anyone else present wishing to make comment regarding agenda item number 10? All right, seeing none, I will close public comment and move into board deliberation.
So I have a couple concerns regarding this. In priority being to the environmental impact, when I look at IR versus I3, this change seems to blur that, and it makes the IR more like I3. And though there's measures in place to affect noise with berms, we all know that berms are only effective in the berm shadow. Not the physical shadow cast, but the height of the berm versus the height of noise affects how effective a berm can be. So I see that was addressed, but the other environmental concerns, such as the particulate distribution from diesel engines, I don't feel was appropriately addressed, and it is a concern that I have allowing this change in that region. There was no mention of environmental impact, and that's my primary concern. The primary concern, you're going to have additional traffic. Even if you decrease the noise, the volume of trucks coming in does increase the particulate. That particulate does have negative effects on health, as we all know. No different than bus barns and other things. And those are classified, as I look at this, those are classified more in the I3. And I think the reason for that is because of the potential health and environmental impacts. So I'm concerned that this does somewhat blur the line between the IR intended purpose and the I3. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Chapman. Any other comments from the board or questions? I was looking to see if, I was trying to bring up the zoning map.
Well, first of all, the one issue you've got with I3 is you don't have any I3 property, virtually no I3 property zoned in this township.
So even will we call that out as a type of zoning? We don't have it assigned to
Well, it's
any
because,
properties?
it's because your industrial land use plan, the way it's laid out, you could zone it I1, I2, or I3. We've had some small parcels zoned I3, but very, very restrictive. And that was the idea behind opening up these distribution fulfillment centers to the IR and the I1, was to broaden the availability of those uses. And to say there's no environmental considerations taken into account, with all due respect, I believe that they are, because Jody has structured significant setbacks into the overall ordinance. In addition to that, she's provided for a limitation on any idling trucks at the facility is prohibited. And the in addition to screening and berming, I think there will be appropriate attention paid to the impact this would or could have on a residential neighborhood. And because it is a special use, in addition to the conditions that are expressed in the ordinance itself, additional conditions can be imposed where it's believed they're necessary.
So it's not a use permitted by right?
Correct. So in addition, and these special use conditions that you see here in 49-300, that's in addition to the general criteria for any special use, which involves general health, safety, welfare conditions, and then you overlay those special use conditions with the specific conditions as set forth in section 49-300. So I do think your planning commission will have ample ability to look at and evaluate whether a proposed use is appropriate.
Other members of the board?
My comments are that as the member or liaison to the planning commission, we had a pretty healthy discussion on the topic. Feel pretty good about the definitions we came up with, and then the expansion, I guess, of property rights, if you will, in the village core to include those accessory buildings seems like a long overdue improvement. So again, it was unanimous at the planning commission. I feel pretty good about it.
Any other comments from the board? Questions for Attorney Porter? I guess I have one. I mean, I appreciate Michael's perspective with regard to pollution. I think that's, you know, you're most concerned about environmental protection. To my knowledge, well, let me phrase that another way. Do we have any other ordinances with baked-in environmental protections? Number one. And number two, Was there any discussion at the planning commission regarding environmental impacts?
Well, again, I think the whole aspect of, it says any buildings, any building site of a distribution center shall be placed a minimum of 300 feet from any residential district, residential use or public right-of-way. All other sites conform to minimum requirements. Loading and staging should be directed away from residential districts, at least a minimum of 450 feet. In addition to that, the screening and buffering requirements in subsection 4 deal with those issues. As far as additional health issues, we do in other ordinances, but not necessarily with regard to particulate coming from traffic or anything like that. We do with runoff, we do with where you might place a gasoline station, other chemicals, things like that. We do have restrictions on that. So, again, parking and drives have to be located at least 150 feet from any residential use district or right-of-way. So I don't think that Jody ignored the impact or failed to address the impacts that it could have in a residential neighborhood.
I really like that the hours are limited, and I also like the fact that idling on and off site is prohibited. So in other words, they can't just leave their semi-truck idling in place.
Right.
So I think that's,
It does assist, it does help. My concern is the increased traffic is going to increase the air, decrease the air quality of the area. And that's something that can't be mitigated with the berm. That's something that the diesel particulate tends to go lower. It contributes to smog and things like that. So it's more of a health risk to individuals than other types of chemicals, other types of combustion products. So that's my concern. It's primarily the air quality. I agree with the berm and I agree with the idling. That does mitigate some of it, but it doesn't negate the increased traffic, increased flow, and especially at a slow speed, which would generate more of that particulate.
so I would say that first of all, a 300-foot buffer from residential is a pretty healthy buffer. So that's, I mean, I agree with that concept that, you know, we're gonna put a pretty decent sized barrier between residential and this zoning change. Part of the, I believe, is part of the attempt at this is that actually needs and uses have changed since this ordinance was, so the way that I think Mr. Clark was speaking to it was that, did I write it down? Thought I did. I didn't. So, I'm sorry, it was Mr. Shaw. He talked about warehousing versus distribution. So, I mean, I don't know the last time this ordinance has gotten a real rehash, but how people move items has changed dramatically since Amazon Prime, right? And so I think part of this is just recognizing that they could warehouse anyway. They want to call this a distribution center, but warehousing is material in and material out too. So, I mean.
It's simply on a different time frame. I think one of the things that may have been missed in the discussion is where you've already chosen to plan for industrial. Typically, it's not in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
Correct.
So if that gives any additional comfort, I guess, to the board, if you look at your industrial zoning, it's typically not in an area that would
Be highly residential or even
Correct.
planned residential.
Correct.
And Michael, your mic's not on, just in case you wanted to say something. I just wanted you to be aware. And this is some of the forefront work that's going to go into the master planning changes because we have to identify these locations. And they're going to be new place types, I think, is how we're going to talk about them. And making sure that they are, and so I was trying to bring up the land use map, and I couldn't get to it fast enough to speak to it. But, I mean, that's just my perspective. I appreciate the environmental impacts that you bring up. I think without that perspective, we wouldn't even be considering what those are. So I do appreciate your lens, adding your lens to that, and I'll just close my comments there.
Sorry, I was looking around trying to find other information. So is this being inserted as a special use?
Correct.
Okay. That's what I thought, not just as flat out. And, well, that provides a lot of extra controls on it too, so I think that's the right place for it to be. And the property that precipitated this whole thing, is that the 6110 number, or is that a different piece of property?
We did not, and nor would it be appropriate,
Right,
I believe, to focus on any particular property. This was a request for a change in the ordinance itself. It's when an applicant comes in and they'll say, I want to change to this zone, and then they show you a design for the building, and you have to tell the planning commission, don't look behind the curtain, because none of that matters. You have to simply consider the zoning change that's being requested. This is, in this case, it's a text versus a rezoning of property, but it's the same principle. You simply look at the proposed text and then determine, is it appropriate for the IR and I-1 districts?
Well, I appreciated that as, when I was on the planning commission, and the importance of that. I guess looking at it from this standpoint and a different board, trying to imagine the possible places that this could be, and imagine where, as Supervisor Bell was saying, where is our district, where, how is it located? So that's kind of why I was asking, is that the property that you were talking about? Because that would give me a better, being able to visualize it on the map rather than, wherever IR is in the township sort of thing.
I thought the bulk of the property that this would be applicable to would be in the 9th Street corridor area, right just north of the highway.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was envisioning. Thank you, I understand it.
Any other comments? If there's no other discussion or deliberation by the board, I can close board deliberation.
I'll make a motion to accept the zoning ordinance amendments for first reading and set second reading for August 13th, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Clerk Farmer and a second by Trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 6 yeas and 1 nay. And so the next step will be to take this for second reading at the August 13th. Thank you, the August 13th board meeting, okay? And Michael, remember, if this pops up on a consent agenda, any item that pops up on a consent agenda, you are always welcome to pull that out for further discussion. I like to provide options. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we have item number 11. Actually, Patricia, this pertains to you too. Just so that you're aware, same thing goes. It'll go to the August 13th to update that ordinance that affects accessory buildings in the village commercial area. We'd love to have you stay, I'm just saying. That's where things are at.
Can I ask a question?
Quickly, yeah.
Is this it, or will there be another meeting?
There will be another meeting.
How many meetings?
That will be a second, by law, there has to be 2 for a charter township.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, next we have item 11, consideration of employee handbook amendment, and we have our Sarah Feaster, our HR director, here to present that to us.
right.
Sarah Feaster, I'm so glad that was not.
Hello again. This memo is actually written from the HR Board Work Group. So as a reminder, we have the HR Board Work Group, which consists of myself, Clerk Farmer, Treasurer Bushka, and Supervisor Bell. And we meet monthly to discuss HR matters and improvements and so on and so forth. So this was born out of some discussion that we have been having around elections and how to compensate our employees, our non-clerk's office staff. So the clerk's office staff work elections inherently with their position, but other employees have an opportunity to work elections as well. And it's been very gray on how we administer that, and as a growing organization, there's a need to make it very black and white on what that looks like when you work for an election. It's not included in your job duties as a function of your job, but we do want to incentivize people to work those elections and participate in that process. So out of those discussions, we did look at other municipalities, had much conversation around that. And what you see before you is a amendment to the employee handbook to compensate non-clerk's office employees for working elections. And as you can see, the policy is written out here, but the intention would be that staff would receive PTO from their job to take PTO on that to be used on the day of the election, and then they would receive compensation for working the election according to the election compensation. So election workers are also compensated on an hourly basis. So they would receive the day off essentially, so they wouldn't lose any primary pay, and then whatever they work for the elections would be compensated separately from a different fund, so it wouldn't impact their normal salary. That's kind of it in a nutshell. It was, if anybody wants to add anything to clarify, feel free. But I think the policy does lay it out pretty well.
Well, and the only thing I would add is that Attorney Porter and I had a discussion about employees who work elections who are paid from restricted funds, and this would alleviate that problem because they're getting the PTO for election day only and then election pay on top of it.
Much cleaner.
Yeah.
The clerk I respect her advocacy. We had not just one conversation about this policy change. We had at least 3 or 4, probably 3. And that's sometimes because I'm slow on the uptake. But this is really, this is really about incentivizing staff that work for a government agency to not have to burn their personal PTO time if they want to work in what we celebrate as the highest order of democracy, exercising your right to vote. Look, do you see how far I went there? You like that?
I did. I did.
Believe me, I was slow. But we did put in some options for department heads, just because someone requests to work on election day. You know, we can't burn every department dry, so we put some options in place there so that township departments would still function, but it provides people who want to participate. I guess it could appear to be punitive if you have to use your PTO to take the day off to work elections for a government agency versus incentivizing people to participate in election day.
So, a quick question, just to make sure I understand it. So that you can't be like some people have done over the years, not here, but at other places I've worked, you can't be double dipping and getting paid twice for doing a job? Or can you do that?
Let's talk that through.
Okay.
So we are going to gift them 8 hours of PTO for working the election.
If they work the election.
And they can only use it on election day. So they will get their regular salary or hourly pay or whatever that is. In addition to that, they will get however many hours they work, we will also pay them
For the election.
the election pay rate to work the election. I do not consider that double dipping. That is a separate job that someone is doing, and to encourage them, we're giving them PTO. That's what that is.
But it's PTO that can only be used to work the
It
election.
can only be used
To work
on
that.
election day.
And I noticed that you specifically say 8 hours, whereas most of us who work elections work more than 8 hours.
But the PTO would only be for a regular day's
Just-
work. They would continue working beyond that, obviously, for the election, and so that's where the election.
So it's not
day
for
comes.
all the hours that they
No,
work.
it is only one 8-hour workday that they would be gifted PTO for.
Or whatever their normal scheduled shift was for that day.
Right.
Yeah, whether it be 8, 4, whatever it is.
We have these 24-hour firefighters. They're all working elections. Bob, you would.
Oh my gosh, that was a robust shake no there.
I've asked him before, this isn't new.
So I guess this is putting our money behind our mouth a little bit. I guess I view it that way. I mean, if we as a government agency say participation is important and we should encourage people to participate and we want our staff to be a part of that, this to me addresses, kind of put some teeth behind it a little bit.
I appreciate that, because it almost felt like a penalty that they had to take PTO to then work elections, which everyone here knows, I think is the most important thing that we do. No offense, fire department. Good job on the CPR. But yeah, it felt like a penalty, and they still did it anyway. We still have people who worked doing that, but of course, I would like to have more people who work here working elections, because it is consistent. Then you have some consistent staff. I mean, and everyone that I have working elections here during the day, they're actually precinct chairs. So not only are they doing an important job, they're in a leadership position within that job. And so I appreciate your consideration.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't see it as double dipping either. I mean, they're going to be working on something that is not normally their duties, and their work is going to be piling up. So it just makes sense.
Any other comments from the board?
Seems like good policy to me.
If you don't mind.
Have at it.
I make a motion to approve the employee handbook amendments for compensation of non-clerk's office employees working for elections. That is a mouthful of a title.
Support.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Clerk Farmer, support by Trustee Chapman. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Not a roll call?
Jim, does this have immediate effect?
Yes.
Okay, that's important. It has immediate effect.
It's real important. August 6th is coming up quick.
We're not like the state government legislature.
Well, look, I appreciate though, we started talking about this in I don't know, January or February, and I was like, look, if we could get it done before the August election, I would be really appreciative, and we made that goal, so it's great.
All right, item number 12, consideration updated board appointment policy.
As the board was informed at the last meeting where you basically rescinded a number of outdated policies, you'll be getting 2 or 3 policies a month probably for the next 6 to 8 months. These policies aren't necessarily, they're not from drafted from whole cloth. They're basically a rewrite of your existing policies, but we were attempting to put them in a uniform fashion. As you see in front of you tonight, the board appointment policy will follow, the others will follow the same format, general purpose, policy summary, and policy criteria listed in each policy. These policies, when they come before you for the trustees' purposes, will have been reviewed and vetted by the supervisor, your treasurer, and your clerk. And so this is the first one up for consideration. Basically, this board appointment policy follows the state statute, which provides for all committees and boards and/or advisory boards that the supervisor makes the recommendation for that appointment, and then it's up to the board to determine whether or not that person will be approved. Most of those references, I referenced the statutory criteria for the board member appointments, other than the Heart Committee, which is unique to the township, and our Parks Committee has a board policy that governs how it is structured as well.
I have one question.
Sure.
All of this is very clear except for the removal section. Which, I mean, it's clear in accordance, but is there like specific differences between the various committees and commissions that one might be appointed to and how one could be removed from them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, certain positions, you actually have to provide them notice and opportunity to come here and be heard. Other positions that may not have that same protection under the state law. Okay. And therefore, to try to draft a removal process specific to each board was fairly extensive. If at some point your supervisor wishes to remove somebody or a board member wants to have the board consider removal, then what we'll have to do is simply address the specific criteria for any of those boards under state statute.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Good question.
So
I mean, to my knowledge, we've never actually had, well, I don't recollect ever actually having to remove someone off a committee, but doesn't mean it couldn't happen.
Well, and it doesn't have to be like a disciplinary action or something. It could just be something like the person moved or they got elected and now they can't be on the board or whatever.
Right.
So when would this take effect?
Immediately.
And how does it affect current members of the board, of each of those boards?
This would have no immediate impact on any existing appointments. This is basically, this policy goes into place, but it's for appointments. So only as your supervisor brings forward new appointments or replacements would it be applicable.
Do we have to go out and look for folks that have served more than one term and come up with 5 votes to waive that then?
Do we have to?
Like, if we find that there's somebody actively serving a 3rd term right now?
Well, they're not going to be. I mean, that's managed in the supervisor's office.
Yeah, we keep track of that.
Okay.
And, I mean, I don't know that I've had anybody tripping to go, Sherry, can I serve 9 years on the planning commission?
I was just hoping that somebody could.
Yeah, usually
At their 2nd term, they're like, let me go.
Yeah, after the 2nd term, most members are like, I really appreciate doing this, thank you,
I
bye.
might be testing your guys' removal
But really, we
policies.
just bounce them over to the zoning board of
Yeah,
appeals, am I
we
right?
recommend them for someplace else. And actually, we have very few empty spots right now. So it's on my list of things to do, but I think we need a couple alternates on ZBA. Where's the list of committees?
We do, yeah. I think still a DDA.
Oh, and the DDA needs a resident member. And SOTA might need a member too. But
Looking pretty good.
But actually, yeah, boards and committees were in pretty good shape.
I make a motion to approve the updated board appointment policy that replaces the rescinded policy from 1991. That's all.
I'll support that. That was 5.
I didn't need to know that,
Just wanted to
Zach.
throw that out there.
I was 10.
And no comments from you, Michael, with your little chuckle down there either. Let's see, where are we at? I have a motion by Clerk Farmer.
I seconded that.
Oh, okay, and a second by Trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0 with immediate effect.
Just as clarification, you had it in here as a roll call. Did it need to be a roll call? Or did I misread this?
Oh, our roll call will be under our resolution
Resolution.
for closed session.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you.
I just did the
You
same
know-
thing on the last one. I know, I saw it too.
Is it out of order?
No.
No, it's
It was
correct.
set up for roll call.
Okay.
I did
don't-
not realize that.
It doesn't have to be.
I was questioning why
Yeah.
it wasn't a resolution.
It wasn't a resolution.
My name's on it, but I didn't actually write it. I'll throw Jim under the bus any day.
We'll just do it as a motion. It's simpler.
It's the joy of the number 59.
Yeah.
It doesn't
We can
say that I wrote it.
I just want to make sure it's clear. We can pass that by a motion, correct, Attorney Porter? It
Yes.
does not need to be a resolution? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
And in
you.
fact, it's structured as the motion and doesn't, we'll just strike the roll call part of it out and just list the votes, 7.
Okay.
So we'll do a motion,
Just
just
wanna
don't
make-
need to do the roll call.
Sure, that's clear. Thank you.
I hope.
Next, we have item number 13, which is consideration.
too.
This
I'm
is an
sorry.
update to the Sunshine Fund Committee policy.
Yeah, basically, this policy has been reworked and tweaked with input from the people that were on that committee, as well as, again, our supervisor, clerk, and treasurer. Basically, this will put the Sunshine Fund totally within oversight of the employees, since it's their fund, and it's purely voluntary. And I think one of the key changes we made at the recommendation of our clerk was to have that committee provide a quarterly report to the people who contribute, and let the employees operate it as they see fit for the benefit of their fellow employees.
We have our HR Director, Sarah, here as well. Sarah, did you want to add anything?
No, I'm just available. I didn't know if you needed me for this part or not.
Board
This is-
have any questions?
I don't have a question on this, but I do have a question related to you.
Okay.
That's not, I'm just going to go out and say, so remember the apparel thing that came up? And I remember asking our township trustees, was there anything ever sent out?
Yep, I sent an email out about the information. We actually got the orders today.
Okay. See, I-
Apparently you didn't see that.
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked. Okay.
Well, we're gonna probably do that periodically, maybe once or twice a year. So there'll be another opportunity for that, yeah.
Neil would like to be decked out in full Oshtemo Township regalia.
Yeah, I got my,
I did tell
there,
you.
here, I'm all set,
I love it. We should put koozies at all the stations up here.
Basically, this sunshine policy allows employees to take care of each other, and it also avoids the uncomfortable situation where you want to send something to somebody in the hospital and you have to say, that's not a public expenditure. So it lets the employees pick up where the township can't spend public money for non-directed issues.
Sorry. If I can add, this, as Jim mentioned, this is completely facilitated by the employees, so there's not a lot of board oversight because it's voluntary contributions from the staff. And in the 4 years that I have been here, I've really enjoyed sitting on this committee. I think we're doing some great work. We've made good progress. We have good guidelines that we follow with that. And I think the Sunshine Fund is really living out its best life with the township in the way that we have it laid out. So again, there's not a lot of board oversight over that, but I think it's a great program. And again, it does, allow for not having those awkward conversations about where's the money gonna come from, so, yeah.
So this is different from our previous policy, in that the Sunshine Fund Committee will now be taking those funds away from the township account and the payment and all that, which was a surprise to me, because I didn't know that's the way you guys wanted to go.
That's a recommendation of council. You really shouldn't have non-public monies mixed into accounts that your treasurer has to try to explain to somebody, gee, where's that $3,000 from and whose is it? And it's not public money. It shouldn't be on your books.
So, when Attorney Porter and I talked about this, at first I'm like, well, we can't tell them what to do with their money as far as like who's on the committee or whatever. But we are still allowing them to use our payroll system for deductions. And then that's why in return, we ask basically two things: that our HR director assist with this process, and then also that they provide a quarterly report to the people who are contributing to it. So it's like in exchange for using our payroll system, that's sort of our expectation on keeping it responsible and on the up and all that.
But it's a lot easier than making somebody go out. I can remember the days before we had this where people would pass an envelope around and you put some money in it, and that was one way to do it. This is obviously much more convenient. I know as an employee, I like contributing to it, and it's nice to just be able to have it payroll deducted, and then I have full faith in my fellow employees to help people when it's needed. And
So, my question here is that though, it says at the bottom, the township fire department employees may establish and operate their own sunshine fund in accordance with this policy, which they currently do. We do deductions for them, they manage it at their own bank, make their own purchases, all that. But then this would then require them, if they wanna continue using the payroll, that they would also have to provide quarterly reports to the people who contribute, not to the
Correct.
board, not to staff.
yes.
But then also, the HR would be assisting with that committee as well.
Yes, the way that is written, I suppose that is true, and maybe that is some language that we need to clean up, because I, as the HR director, don't have any oversight over that fire sunshine fund.
Right, well, in reality, you don't have any oversight over the township
No.
office sunshine fund either.
No, and the reason we put assistance with the HR director was, a lot of times people need to know, if somebody's in the hospital, well, sometimes you can't just, that's not general information, and sometimes the HR director has that information, can help facilitate a card and a plan, things like that. And then it provides like a point person to assist the group. One other comment we did get from the treasurer, and it wasn't by mistake, was by having 4 employees operate it, it's gonna take 3 of them to agree on what they're gonna do, and that was intentional. In other words, you can't just have, 3-2, or they're gonna have to agree on how to use the money, and hopefully that keeps everybody on the up and up and makes them reach a consensus as to how to spend the money.
I guess my only feedback on this in thought is quarterly reports back to the donors seems robust to me, knowing that the level of the fund is actually quite modest. So
You gonna do like an end of year report?
I was thinking biannually, twice a year seems reasonable to me. I mean, I don't know how.
Every time we have a joint meeting, that you guys have to provide a report.
Currently I do them at the staff meetings, quarterly. So it's just one slide that talks about the expenditures, what the balance is. And then additionally, the staff always has access to a spreadsheet that we keep that is basically the check register. There's no personal information that's viewable. It's just events and items purchased.
Okay, so you've already got quarterly baked into your
Yeah.
process. Okay,
Yes.
good.
So if we go on there and it says Wild Party at Houlihan's in Lansing, we know somebody's wasting it.
It's on Jim's dime.
Or that was the gift.
I like the way you think.
Sunshine.
Okay, any other conversation on this, policy update?
I think what I understand is we're gonna bring it back with further HR management definition
I
of
don't
what that person's supposed to be doing.
No, it just says assistance.
Right,
So,
and then we just talked about like the fire department.
Oh, because of the way the policy's
Well,
written in here?
If they need assistance, they'll ask for it. If they don't need assistance,
I mean, technically, as the payroll facilitator, I do their payroll
I mean, when
deductions.
they're onboarded, they're,
I'm giving them the information to
information.
enroll in the Sunshine Fund if they want. I'm having that conversation with them.
I think the extent to which they or use the HR director for assistance, I think is pretty much up to the committee.
Right, and the HR director would not be a voting member of that committee, it would be the 4 employees.
Right. I don't know, yeah, they handle that on the fire department side, yeah.
It just sounded like she said
It sounded like we wanted to change it because of the fire department, so I was just
Oh,
I was
no.
just clarifying.
No.
And just to be clear, we're not changing anything about the current structure of the program. This is how it's running. I think that these policies coming to the board is to get everything in kind of a uniform format.
It's a
So
big change to move the funds out of the township.
we haven't talked about that. So we had some internal discussion about that, but there was no decisions made on whether to pull it out or not.
This will do that.
This will, okay, because when we were reviewing it, it kind of left it kind of at our discretion if we did or didn't. So is that what we're voting on, is pulling it out?
That's what I was
That's-
saying when I
that's
said.
how I would read this
I
policy,
didn't
yes.
understand, or I didn't know that that was.
Okay.
Requested.
Yeah, the committee collects, holds, and manages the fund.
Right.
It's not part, shouldn't be part of the township money.
Okay, yep, and I agree with that. So at this point,
That doesn't need to be in the policy, though. It's an action that just needs to be taken.
Well, it's in the policy.
It is in this, shall collect, hold, and manage a fund of
Oh, okay.
voluntary contributions, yeah.
So then my question, and this is just a clarification, will there have to be a separate committee for the fire department?
they
already
have,
have
They have
They
it, so,
have one.
okay.
they already have one, yeah.
Well, and the township office side also already has one. This is just a cleanup. The previous policy is a couple pages down from this one.
That's
Right, the old policies. they-
Yeah. Really, the biggest change is that they're not going to be using our software for payments to vendors and for tracking receipts and disbursements. They would be doing that on their own
And we
now.
don't have to put something from the accountant on page 57 of our audit saying that our treasurer has $2,000 sitting around, they don't know what it's for. No, just kidding.
I was gonna say, we've had
it
this
off our
Sunshine
books.
Fund for a very long time, and the
I know.
auditors have never had a problem with it. Not a single issue with the way it's being run. And they are very aware that,
Yeah,
that
it's
we
not-
have
it's
that
never
money.
been top
It's
secret.
not an issue at all. So this is
And my understanding was that from Sunshine Fund committee conversations, that there's a preference to go ahead and move the funds into their own account or, out of the township coffer, or out of our bank.
You are correct, yes. I've had the same conversation.
I did not know that.
I'd like to try to move this if it needs moving. It does, doesn't it?
Does need moving.
Okay.
Yes.
And I will move to adopt the Sunshine Fund Committee policy with the motion to approve board-approved policy.
I'll support.
Motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Chapman. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion on the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. 3 down, 457 policy updates to go.
Absolutely.
That's right. Next, we are moving to agenda item 14, and before we go to, never mind, I'll go ahead. Attorney Porter?
You have a resolution in front of you to enter into closed session to discuss written opinion of counsel as well as the following litigation, Solaric versus Clerk, Kellison Woods Condominium Association, Oshtemo Charter Township. Case number 2019-0338CH and Solaric versus Door, Page, Cummings, Porter, Oshtemo Charter Township, PNC Bank. Case number 2023-0379CZ. This is a roll call.
Do we, do you want the resolution read into the record?
No,
just did.
basically I did.
Oh, all right.
I will make the I will make a motion to adopt the resolution to enter closed session.
Support.
And this is a roll call vote.
Yes.
Correct.
Trustee Cole?
I just have a quick question for Attorney Porter. So the final one, Oshtemo Charter Township and PNC National Association, is that PNC Bank?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to state for the record that I will not be participating in any discussion or deliberation on that due to my employment with PNC. But I vote aye for the closed session.
Okay.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Trustee Chapman?
Yes.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
I vote yes. Treasurer Bushka
Yes?
and Supervisor Bell.
Yes.
We are in closed session.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask the chief and Sarah,
You can't, no, you have to leave it running.
we're coming back. No.
That's for real, that's law.
Oh,
You
we
gotta
have to keep the Zoom going?
Yeah, you
In
gotta.
closed session?
Yeah, you gotta keep it going the whole time.
That's what I told you the other day.
We always have.